Prepare yourselves, friends, for an utterly unbelievable tale of marital chaos and transformation. Greetings, everyone. I honestly never imagined reaching a point where I'd seek advice from unknown individuals online, yet here I stand. My spouse and I have shared a decade together, with 8 years as a married couple. We first connected during our college years and were each other's initial and sole partners. I genuinely believed our bond was truly special and unparalleled due to this history, but it seems I was alone in that perception. Some time ago, my wife took a new position. Initially, she struggled to integrate because she'd always been somewhat reserved. However, with my encouragement, she formed connections with a female circle. Some were single, divorced, or dating, but notably, none were married. At first, I was pleased she found companions, but then she began going out for drinks, attending parties, or participating in other activities her new friends planned. I grew concerned by her shifting conduct and tried to discuss it, yet simultaneously, I didn't wish to impose restrictions. This soon impacted our intimate life. My wife wasn't typically the one to initiate closeness, but with her constant outings, she was either too fatigued or simply uninterested. At a certain point, her workplace welcomed a new manager, whom my wife and her friends seemed to admire. She started mentioning him casually, but it escalated to her, highlighting his methods for handling issues that appeared unrelated to work. I questioned her intense interest in this man, and she dismissed my worries. She even began asking if I regretted not having more experiences with other women, to which I replied no, because she was all I ever needed. I could have sworn I glimpsed a flicker of sorrow in her gaze, but she quickly changed the topic. She then introduced the idea of open relationships as a means to revitalize our marriage. I was startled, as my wife had never been this type of person, nor was she sexually liberal, to be frank. I initially refused and asked if this suggestion was connected to the new manager. She denied it, claiming she felt she had missed out but didn't want to lose me, making this a safer alternative. I warned her she was risking everything. Then, reluctantly and somewhat foolishly, I agreed. We established some guidelines, primarily that no one else would sleep in our home. So, for a year, my wife went on dates and had casual encounters. Then, as if I hadn't foreseen it, she somehow entered into a relationship with that manager. I, on the other hand, had a few dates but avoided casual encounters. It just felt wrong to me. My wife would inquire if I was fine, but her actions never truly changed. Eventually, the affection I held for her, that pure, distinct marital innocence, felt extinguished, and it was devastating me. I ended up on a date with an incredible woman who had recently moved from South Korea. Our conversation flowed effortlessly. Her intellect was sharp and quick-witted, and her smile made one forget themselves completely. This naturally led to more dates until we became intimate. I genuinely had never experienced intimacy like I did with this woman. I never knew a woman could be so generous and make someone feel so desired. Initially, my wife found it charming, but as the months passed, she began questioning my relationship with my new partner. I promptly reminded her that this arrangement was her idea, and she herself was involved with the manager I had expressed concerns about. She remained silent, appearing to want to speak but holding back. She started coming home earlier to surprise me with meals and kept the house exceptionally tidy. Soon, she began visiting my workplace to bring lunch and initiating intimacy in the bedroom. Honestly, if it weren't for her suggestion to open our marriage, for which I also bear responsibility for agreeing, all this effort would have filled me with immense joy. I barely responded to her attempts at intimacy, and when I did, it was simply to get it over with. Something within me toward my wife had died, and I could tell she sensed it too. I asked what prompted this change in her. What was different? Her response was that she wanted to show me her love and happiness with me. I never meant to, but I burst into laughter. I asked about her little social group, her manager, or her casual encounters. She didn't reply that day and simply went to bed in tears. The next day, I arrived home to find her waiting. She told me she wanted to end the open arrangement, that this entire experience was a terrible mistake she deeply regretted, and she wanted us to be the focus of our relationship once more. I asked her to be truthful and explain what had inspired all of this initially. And wouldn't you know it, it was her group of friends who planted the idea, fueled by their numerous romantic escapades. When her manager became involved, he surprisingly endorsed that lifestyle and encouraged my wife to live freely. Apparently, it evolved into an emotional connection, becoming physical only once the marriage was open. Wow, Like that makes it any better. She described it as feeling intoxicated while driving a speeding car. It was exhilarating and captivating, but the cost of this choice had become too heavy for her to bear. She now understood she never needed comparisons. What we shared was truly distinct and precious. But now she felt as though she had destroyed our marriage and any prospect of a future together. I told her I might never be able to view her as my wife again, and this caused her to collapse in front of me. I simply held her in silence as she wept until she drifted off to sleep in my arms on the sofa. She has since resigned from her job and severed ties with all her friends and her manager. She even told me she's willing to dedicate the rest of her life to amends, working tirelessly to be seen as my wife again. But I haven't ended contact with my new partner. My partner, quite frankly, empowers me, making me feel capable of facing any challenge, something my wife hasn't done in a while. The truth is, I'm unsure what to do in this situation. I'd love to recapture that special bond if possible. But my new partner essentially rescued me when I was at my lowest. Please help me. Oh, I forgot to mention, we have our first marriage counseling session in a couple of hours. Not sure how that will unfold. It seems someone's plan completely backfired. Let's hear what the online community thinks. One user, Rest in You Things, commented, "Well, if you engage in foolish games, you'll reap foolish consequences. Honestly, many people have wonderful lives but somehow feel unfulfilled. In their attempt to fix what isn't broken, they end up shattering it." Another user, Super Nothing Burger, chimed in, "Seriously, she should report the manager to HR. The power dynamic here is skewed. A manager encouraging his subordinates to explore their sexuality raises serious questions. I bet the company is unaware this guy is running a personal harem in the office." The original poster responded, "I honestly suspect you're right. I'm particularly bitter that he seems to escape unscathed while my entire world crumbles." All right, let's return to the narrative with update 1. The therapist seemed pleasant and experienced. She appeared impartial and genuinely eager to assist, despite it being our very first session. My wife used it as an opportunity to disclose everything. It seems she admitted that this group of friends made her question if she had missed her chance because she had been committed to her initial boyfriend and lacked other experiences. She felt she never had the same adventures some of these supposedly incredible women had. Remember, some were divorced, but none married. The therapist highlighted that this often proves detrimental to a marriage due to differing mindsets. My wife seemed to concur, then added that after the new manager began approaching her, some of these friends urged her to see where things would lead, suggesting it was an opportunity for her to explore or discover herself. She obviously felt guilty, so she claims, and thus never engaged in anything physical until one of the divorced friends proposed an open marriage as a loophole, telling her that some couples emerge stronger from it. So, after regrettably, again, so she says, persuading me to open the marriage, her so-called adventure commenced. It was captivating and disorienting, but lacked genuine depth, unlike the bond we had cultivated over the years. She began questioning her motives for this. She said she could see the pain in my eyes, but told herself it was an adventure. She stated she would never forgive herself for this. It was her chance for an amazing experience, so the full impact never struck her until she noticed a change in me. At first, she assumed that because I was dating, I was gradually accepting her situation and would eventually be fine with it. But everything shifted when my new partner became a consistent presence in my life. Apparently, I started smiling again without reason. My eyes would brighten when I received a text message or when I cheerfully left the room to answer a call. She said she suddenly felt a knot in her stomach and began experiencing numerous panic attacks without cause. She sought advice from her friends, but again they claimed it was a normal reaction for me to have during the adventure. However, when the same divorced friend who initially suggested this said, "It looks like his new woman makes him happy," that's when the truth finally dawned on her. The very real possibility that another woman, not his wife, brought him joy almost made her faint. She realized how absurd this all was and pleaded with them to help her win me back. But they simply told her if she couldn't handle it, why did she open her marriage in the first place? She knew then and there that these individuals were harmful and a threat to our marriage and the life we had built. Hence, she's been on a mission to reclaim me by any means necessary. I, on the other hand, didn't disclose as much, but I did inform the counselor about my situation with my new partner still involved. To this, the counselor stated that no resolution could ever be reached with the other woman still present and suggested we book another appointment for after tomorrow. The counselor did mention it was unusual for someone to remain with their first partner for such a long time and gave the impression that any difficulty could be overcome. I strongly suspect she hopes this will become one of her success stories. Apologies for the length, but I felt it best to provide a complete update. Rest in You Things returned, saying, "Let me get this straight. Your wife was envious of divorced people's lifestyles? What on earth is happening in the world that someone with a failed marriage is being envied? Let your toxic friends help you play foolish games. They won't be there when you face the foolish outcomes." Hatersaurus Rex added, "My ex's primary friend group is exactly where she is now. Around 40. Miserable. Sleeping with married men just to have someone in their lives, and complaining that no good men exist. Every one of them envied our relationship. They constantly told her how they hoped to find a man as good as me, and most of them even encouraged and facilitated her meeting and sleeping with other men. Plenty of good men are available. If a woman wants to keep one, she needs to maintain fidelity. It's that straightforward." The original poster's thoughts on this. Why is this even an issue? If only she hadn't done this. If only we had communicated properly, perhaps we could have resolved things. But I, too, am at fault for agreeing to this initially. I just wanted to prevent a situation where she cheated on me behind my back, as messed up as that sounds. Captain Hook 05 commented, "I understand, my friend. She put you in a very difficult position, and being inexperienced in managing such a situation, you gave in to her desires. In my opinion, even if you had disagreed with the open marriage, she still would have pursued her affair. I am 100% convinced that she mentally disengaged from your marriage before you did. Now she wants to re-engage because you are happy with someone else. Someone who genuinely values you as an individual and contributes rather than just taking. If you don't mind me asking, in your relationship with your wife, was she as giving as your current partner? Did she invest effort in your marriage before she noticed that your partner truly makes you happy? I don't mean to offend, but based on your posts, it appears your wife is still prioritizing herself over you. Who would want to remain in a marriage like that? Be happy, OP. Do what's right for you. You already know the answer." The original poster's reply, "It's like I transformed into a completely different person when this started, and once her adventure concluded, she became like a supercharged Stepford wife. Suddenly, traditional family values matter far more to her than they used to. Even with my jogging, she never once joined me for either my jogging or my judo practices, but now she wants to be extremely involved." Push 80. Comments stated, "And make no mistake, the loving person she's trying to pretend to be is merely an act. As soon as the other woman is out of the picture, she will drop the facade. I'll be honest, I'm still hoping you'll wake up and realize you have a much better catch on the line than your wife. You found someone who genuinely brings you joy, and you're risking that to stay with someone who clearly knew she was hurting you but simply didn't care. Chasing random encounters as an adventure was more important to her. She only started to care about her relationship with you, but still not actually caring about you once the marriage and the comfort it provided her was threatened. That's not love, that's self-interest." Captain Hook again commented, "She is forcing herself to be involved because she recognizes she's losing you. What about your new partner? What does she provide you that your wife never did? I'm asking because these answers will help you solidify a decision." The original poster's response was, "Well, as I mentioned, my new partner makes me feel like a man. What I mean is, when I've had a difficult day, I'm met not by cold indifference but by a warm embrace and a listening ear. When my insecurities arise, she encourages me that nothing is beyond my reach. More than anything, and this might sound old-fashioned, so apologies, she provides me the space to be the man in the relationship. What I mean is, my partner believes women were meant to do things men cannot. Again, I think this relates to her background. She believes men aren't as nurturing or compassionate as women. Thus, in her view, a gentle heart can calm a raging volcano, a Korean proverb or saying, or something similar. She believes she can command the bedroom and make it thrilling, but never diminish me or invade my space in other areas. She believes men have far fewer needs than women, so once these are met, the man would essentially conquer any obstacle for the woman. Now, I must admit she does believe in equal compensation and mutual respect, but not the extremes people seem to go to these days. As I said, it might seem old-fashioned, but I think that's largely due to her cultural background. Now let's hear from Super Nothing Burger again. Okay, OP, time for a reality check. Bear with me. You said, My new partner makes me feel like a man. I assume you're in the Western world. In the West, a very, very small percentage of women will happily do this for you. I managed to find one after years of dealing with the other kind, so I know what I'm talking about. You're talking about like 1% of highly sought-after women, and you've managed to secure one? Now let's discuss your wife for a moment. She was a woman who had everything she desired in life, but ultimately, she allowed an outsider to convince her. Here are all the reasons you should sideline the person who is passionate about you, your one and only, and open yourself up to a guy who couldn't care less about you but definitely wants to sleep with you. Sounds like what you're doing with your wife and new partner right now. Are you determined to be like your wife? Will you abandon a girl who has eyes only for you and leave her in the lurch because you're holding on to some idealized image of who your wife used to be in your past? And will you discard a loving girl for someone who is married to you just to tick the got married box between affairs? If you are determined to be like your wife, then by all means, stay with her. Here's the warning. Your wife only wants you now because you appear desirable because another girl wants to steal you. That won't last. After you let go of this incredible woman, you'll be back to square one. And when that happens, you'll have lost both your wife and the woman from Korea, because a woman who makes a man feel like a man is in high demand. And then you'll be back here in a year posting, "Oh no. But wait, there's another update." 1. I asked if she was certain nothing physical occurred before the marriage was open. She glanced towards the floor and implored me not to make her speak of it. She said if she confessed, it would devastate us. But after some gentle prodding, she revealed it wasn't physical, but they had touched themselves in each other's presence. This scoundrel convinced her that since it wasn't physical, or sort of wasn't, it wasn't technically infidelity, and they were simply appreciating each other's full beauty. I was absolutely stunned by this, and she began trembling and hyperventilating. Mucus even started running from her nose as she wept and apologized to me. At this point, even the counselor was visibly shocked and wore an expression of disbelief. My wife knelt and embraced my leg, expressing her profound sorrow. 2. I then asked her what truly altered her perception of him. She said after she began distancing herself from the group as a whole, his conduct towards her changed. Then, one evening as she was leaving a meeting, she passed his office and overheard him discussing her with another male colleague. He said he was surprised at how easily she was swayed and how she was living proof that one shouldn't trust the quiet ones. When the colleague inquired if he actually had feelings for her, his response was that she was a pleasant diversion and that he had absolutely no intention of ending things with his fiancée. He even added that this was merely to get it out of his system because the only woman who had ever truly understood him was his fiancée, and he didn't want to break up with her. He also mentioned feeling bad for me, but you snooze, you lose. My wife, upon realizing she was nothing more than a casual conquest to this man, coupled with the fact that she had betrayed me for a fleeting thrill, actually felt suicidal in that moment. She said she left her workplace and was sick in the parking lot. She also added that her first thoughts were, "What have I done? And my love, please forgive me. I am so sorry." 3. I then asked her if she loved him, and when she stopped loving me. She looked me directly in the eye through her tears and said she had never stopped loving me, which honestly makes it worse, and that he was just something different. She thought it was love but now recognized how foolish it was. She squeezed my arm with surprising force and said she knew she had made a terrible mistake but missed us in the bond we shared before all this. She even suggested we relocate and start anew, just the two of us, exactly as it was meant to be. I then told her it wouldn't be fair to my new partner and that I needed time away from her to process everything. It was like she had a complete breakdown at those words. She started sobbing more intensely and uttering incoherent phrases. She clung to me as if I might vanish. It took some time for both me and the counselor to calm her down. The counselor managed to persuade her that perhaps time apart could aid our healing. Now, I wish I could conclude the update with just this, but as we arrived home, I began to pack. My wife received a video call on her laptop. It was one of her former friends, in tears. It turns out that after my wife resigned, this friend and the manager began a casual relationship of their own. But apparently, she had a pregnancy scare, which caused him to essentially transform into a completely different person. To make matters worse, she apparently had a boyfriend with whom she could envision a future, and the only reason she even had a fling was out of curiosity for the experience. Funny how that seems to be a common theme. Her boyfriend discovered everything because he found an email between the two discussing the potential pregnancy. But the manager essentially accused her of baby trapping him. Of course, he left her. And the reason she contacted my wife was because she was under the impression that my wife had successfully salvaged our marriage and was desperately seeking advice. I simply turned and left and have been staying in an apartment ever since. Our first comment after this update from Inferno X04 states, "It's quite baffling how she claims she loves you, never stopped loving you, but was prepared to do the things she did." I wouldn't recommend reconciliation with this woman unless you can completely move past all of this. If you can't see yourself getting over this, just start a new life with your new partner. Anyway, good luck with everything moving forward, mate. We all believe in you. The original poster reflected, "To be honest, I don't see myself regaining the affection I once had for her. I have also consulted a divorce attorney recommended by my brother, just in case." Matt, we all wanted to add, "I'm so sorry you're enduring this." When you look back in a few years, you may realize that the moment your marriage ended was when she brought up an open relationship for the second time. She knew you didn't want to, but was too selfish. Everything after that was the endgame. You're doing the correct thing by detaching. It appears you know in your heart that the marriage is over, and your mind is catching up to your emotions. It doesn't mean you no longer care for your wife, but what was broken cannot be mended. As for the other man, I use that term very loosely. You owe it to his fiancée to locate her and inform her of what he is doing and has done. This is not so much revenge as it is basic decency. Would you want to go through life unknowingly that before you got married, your fiancée was sleeping with everyone and destroying relationships? She deserves the right to make her own choices. She might know, but that's doubtful. If she doesn't know, her wedding will involve half the guests knowing her husband is a deceitful cheater. Save her from that humiliation. Also, contact HR at your wife's company. Even if they do nothing, there will be a record that he is engaging with employees indiscriminately. It's not good for business. I wish you success with your Korean partner. Now for the final update. Well, quite a bit has transpired. The former friend who had the pregnancy scare was indeed pregnant, but the strain of losing her boyfriend and being publicly shamed by the affair caused her to miscarry. She essentially became enraged, unleashing total devastation on the manager. She exposed him to all senior management and his fiancée. I happened to find his fiancée on Facebook. I was curious, and this woman is essentially the epitome of a charming small-town girl. Based on her profile, she's a special needs educator who enjoys staying home and is very family-oriented. My very first thought was, what on earth is he doing messing around with other women when he has her at home? Honestly, why men like him end up with women like her remains one of life's greatest enigmas. The former friend actually reached out to me. She wanted my account of the events because she was gathering evidence against him, but she wanted to do it in person. She had already taken her COVID test, and so had I, and I agreed. From the moment I saw her face, I knew she was shattered. The dark circles beneath her eyes and her reddish irises clearly indicated she hadn't slept and was tormented by her thoughts. She thanked me for agreeing to meet her and immediately apologized for her part in my wife's adventure. It turns out she and my wife spoke again, and that's when she learned I had moved out. She didn't deflect blame and wanted to accept responsibility, which is why she wanted to meet in person. I thanked her for her efforts but asked why she would go to such lengths. She said losing both a child and the love of her life fundamentally changed her. She said she could barely look in the mirror without feeling revulsion, and she could hardly sleep because all she saw was her ex's face the day he found out. This woman clearly detested herself, and this meeting might have been a form of self-punishment for her. She told me that since fraternizing among coworkers is a violation of conduct, and especially because he held a position of influence, he will most likely be terminated and possibly blacklisted from that entire industry. But the same might be true for her as well, and she accepted it. She left after getting my side of the story and apologized again. I needed to retrieve a few items from the old place, so I chose a time when I thought my wife wouldn't be home. Unfortunately, she was there. But what surprised me was that she had most of her wedding photos spread out on the coffee table, along with others, and she was staring at them. When she noticed me, I could see she was crying. She tried to hug me, but I gently moved her aside. She tried to offer me lunch, but I told her I wasn't hungry and that I wouldn't be long, just needed a few things before I could proceed. She said she had something to show me. She pulled out her phone and displayed a message she had received 2 days prior from her former manager, who had betrayed her. It was from a new number since she had blocked his old one. Apparently, my wife helped her former friend expose him to all relevant parties, and he was furious. She said she got the idea from Chump Lady and Marriage Builders. She thought by revealing the secret, she was stripping it of its power, as well as giving us a fighting chance. I told her I was glad she had the courage to do that, but it didn't alter anything between us. I also informed her that I would be discontinuing marriage counseling, but would pursue individual counseling instead. This made her sob softly, and she said she understood. I know I'm supposed to feel either triumph from the actions taken or fury because it took this long, but I feel numb towards her. This isn't normal, which is why I want to address it in individual counseling and not couples counseling. I have also seen a divorce lawyer at my brother's suggestion, just to be safe. As of now, I'm not truly willing to fight for this marriage, and it seems my wife can sense it. Before I left, she tried to initiate intimacy, but when I refused, she yelled and asked, "What does my new partner do for me that she can't? What does my new partner provide me that she, my wife, cannot?" In a voice so loud I'm sure the neighbors heard it, she declared that whatever it was I wanted, she, my wife, would do it. I shook my head and told her if she couldn't discern it after all that had occurred, then it was clear where our marriage was headed, and I left. Let's conclude this episode with a couple of final comments. First, from Cuckington the Butler. What does your new partner do for you that she can't? What does your new partner provide you that she, your wife, cannot? Respect, loyalty, and faithfulness are the concepts that elude your former wife. She opened the marriage to the manager and any other man she fancied, allowing herself to be used as a town bicycle for a year. Keep moving forward, friend. There's nothing to return to. Your wayward wife happily gambled that you had less value as a partner than she did, that she could do as she pleased, and you would still be around if something better didn't work out. A friend, Captain Hook, responds again. His soon-to-be ex-wife will be longing for him for years, if not the rest of her life, while he will be riding into the sunset with his current partner, enjoying life. This is a story of triumph in the making, and the best part is, he did not commit any wrong in this situation. The wrong party gets rewarded in life, and that rarely happens.